All right, welcome guys. Welcome to my quasi-weekly live stream, the Rule the Wasteland live stream. I keep not knowing if I'm gonna be able to do this to the last minute, so I do plan on getting Dan and hopefully Che and then back on whenever I can find out more than an hour ahead of time if I'm going to be doing it or not. But I kind of just lose track of which day it is, and then I'm like, oh, today's Sunday. Am I going to be free in 3 hours? So I hopefully will be able to get more onto a schedule with videos in general. What's up, Casual Preparedness and Stabbing Joe? Hair looking great. I appreciate it. I don't know if you guys see that. What is that? That is a big ass gray hair. Terrible. The years come and the years. Wait, what's that song? They keep coming, they won't stop coming. Something along those lines. But we're out here just rocking in the free world. And as usual these days, there's a ton of weird and interesting and preparedness related stuff going on. Thanks for the 5x5. Glad to know that everything's coming through. I do plan on experimenting with the Rumble live stream so I can do both. They have more features. So I'll probably throw a random one up during the week just as a test and not make sure I have it working before the next Sunday one with the other guys on it. But and hopefully clean up, have a better backdrop for you guys. This is all this junk. I do have my cactus, my nuclear bomb. Speaking of nuclear bombs, have you guys seen? I'm gonna see if I can find. I don't really have a way to show video on here easily. I'm haven't figured. You can. I just haven't figured out a way to do it. But I think I have a link to some Twitter. It was on Twitter. I commented on it. So if you're on my Twitter account, you would have seen this already. But Instagram is so funny. Let me see. There is a. Here we go. I can copy a link and post it in the chat of a meteorite that was in. I think it was Romania. And that thing looked crazy. And because of the way everyone has phones now, always being recorded, there's some insane footage of that thing. But I just wanted to point out that I probably need to look up exactly what a lot of these different things look like. Because if I had seen that thing in the sky, like you'll see in this video, my pucker factor would have been about DEFCON 5, and I would have been absolutely convinced that I was about 10 seconds away from getting a 50,000 degree radioactive enema. Because that thing looked like I would expect a ICBM roaring in to look like the whole sky lights up with this blue laser beam looking thing. Wild, really cool looking, but I would have been like, well, yeah, that was going to talk. I have that written down here as well, Joe, about the Iranian president going down in a helicopter. That's still basically breaking news. So for those of you who don't know, it was on the Iranian president and a bunch of other, so not the Ayatollah. They have interesting kind of split there of like the that's kind of the difference between like the Shia and the Sunnis, where one has a really strong religious component to the government. But so it was the president, I believe, not the Ayatollah, but he was with some other cabinet members in a helicopter that appeared to have a weird like paucity of other aircraft with them. So it wasn't like a huge military convoy. I don't know if they had a military escort, but they were actually over in Azerbaijan, I think, or on their way there. And the helicopter kind of went down in bad weather. So obviously, it's certainly possible that they were taken down by the Israelis or some sort of NATO or US, efforts. But it's also possible the helicopters can crash. They do crash all the time, a lot more often than planes. There's a lot less margin for error, I would say. You don't really, some people were describing it as a hard landing, and I'm like, well, that's possible. You don't really get too much hard landings in helicopters. It's either you land or you crash, and there's not a whole lot in between, very little in between. You have to be at like the perfect height for the auto gyration to kick in for you to have some kind of like hard landing. Because if you're too low, it doesn't matter. If you're too high, obviously, it's not enough to slow you down. So very bad news to be in a helicopter crash. Much worse than if you just lose power in a plane where you could theoretically glide in with zero power. Can't really do that with a helicopter. So as from what I can understand, they're still like looking for him. Haven't even found the exact crash site yet. It's been 12 hours. So very interesting. Sunday says, last time you skipped over my explanation about 60 grain Aguila subsonic. It's the same power as normal 22. Okay. I'm not sure with all the various types of subsonic ammo. I know I've used some subsonic before it was Aguila as well, so I don't know if it was, but it was very weak. And I mean, part of that's just function of 22 long rifle being, in my opinion, a super underpowered cartridge to begin with. It obviously it's effective for a lot of different things, but just compared to like anything else, it's very underpowered. And I think, and I not think, I know for a fact that rimfire ammunition has a much higher, failure rate than just feeding and even misfires than centerfire ammo. So I try to avoid the rimfire or I always avoid it for things that I know are life and death, like carry ammunition and stuff. But it does definitely has a place. I posted a um, link about in Twitter and in my YouTube. I think it's a community page about a really good deal on 1022s because obviously I have a 1022, I have a couple 22 handgun, or at least one handgun and another rifle. And I think it's something that we should all have. I just don't think that it would ever be my primary. Barrel Trainer says, "Do you have a shotgun?" No, I do not have a shotgun. Nice try, Feds. I have multiple shotguns. The mullahs know better than to show their faces. Yeah, right. And that could be one of these. Obviously, we know that Israel and NATO are willing and able to do different types of covert missions and assassinations and everything. So that certainly could be what's the case here. But like I said, helicopters do crash. And that's certainly possible as well. It's not something that is, totally unheard of. Definitely can have crashes, but it's definitely interesting. And it just doesn't bode well, whether it's an accident or not. And even if it was an accident, maybe they'll just decide to blame it on Israel or the U.S. And that could certainly take, because it's everyone would be like, well, they would. And if they did, they're going to deny it either way. So, that's the information game is so interesting nowadays because um, we're definitely in the, if you can't amaze them with excellence, baffle them with bullshit stage where it used to be that there just was no information. World War II times maybe and before, maybe even up through the 80s where you just had to rely on the official sources of information. And if you didn't want to believe them, tough luck. That's all you had. Now there's this information overload. A lot of these official sources have been proven to be unreliable at best, purposely misleading, more likely in most of their cases. And so it's just a crapshoot. You have to try to just get a general sense of what's going on. But any individual piece of information is, you'd be crazy to just, make that a, um, something to focus on as any particular point of information. Sonny says, I don't have lots of guns because when shit the fan, you'll have to cache abandon all but one. Yeah, like I said, I don't focus on that's one version of a shit hit the fan scenario where you would have to cache or abandon. There's all sorts of different things that I prepare for and I would like to be prepared for, different scenarios. And in my mind, preparedness is being able to handle as many different possible scenarios as possible. So, I do think that a lot of us probably have too many guns compared to the other things that we should be spending our money on. But there are plenty of scenarios where you would want more than than what you could carry. You know, it certainly wouldn't be a bad thing. If you're going to leave with what you can carry anyway, you're not really worse off by having some guns left behind. And there's a lot of other scenarios where having the extras might help. Anytime a big event or accident happens, always ask who benefits. Right, exactly. And that doesn't necessarily guarantee that that's going to be who did it or what happened, but it is a good starting point. And we know who benefits from Iranian people getting murked. It's not Iran. It's not Russia, not China, probably. But Russia did apparently at least say they would. I'm not sure. I don't follow enough of the, open source intel stuff minute by minute, but Russia had at least offered to send helicopters and stuff. I believe they already did dispatch some help with search and rescue. We've seen them getting super chummy with China to the point where where Putin and Xi were like hugging or something in their recent meeting. So that kind of axis is definitely coalescing. And that's why like the combined like military might and um manufacturing capacity and resources of Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and even just the tacit kind of, even if you don't consider them allies, any of these other countries like Saudi Arabia or India, Brazil, stuff like that, Pakistan, maybe, who knows, that just aren't kind of no longer really feel like kowtowing to the US. They don't have to actively support this other axis, but that's quite a bit of military might and, like I said, resources being built up. If you leave guns behind, take the bolts, frying pins, you don't end up being shot with them. Yeah, you could at least hide them. You don't necessarily want to carry all that with you, but So if someone did end up breaking into your house or something while you were gone, they would at least not get usable weapons. It's not a bad idea at all, for sure. But yeah, so all the stuff is just pointing more towards a um, continued escalation in the theaters that we're seeing, continued financial disturbances in the banking system. I know Gregory Mannarino and a few other people are really harping on the smaller banks being in massive risk right now, and the potential for there to be cascading problems. We're seeing continued failures and stuff. His assertion is that credit unions are safer, as he puts it, safer, not necessarily safe, but it's not smart to have all your assets in any one location, certainly not physical cash, especially in today's inflationary environment. But you definitely should have some physical cash on hand, in my opinion, but I'm not a financial advisor. Also, of course, should have some of the older elements in the universe formed in the heart, dying stars, like the shiny long bar. Picked this one up recently. So beautiful. Look at that shine of poured silver. Beautimus. If you guys haven't ever just touched physical gold or silver for some reason, changes you. Got to do it. Got to do it. And that was interesting thing that I want to talk about as well is that there was a very, very interesting video. I think it was, well, Canadian Prepper did an interview with George Gammon, who I followed for a long time, does financial commentary, mostly real estate, at least at his start. And he had a very interesting experience, which to me was not really surprising because I guess I just had a different vision. There's a lot of people who think differently on this, and I guess I didn't realize that, is that there apparently are a lot of people who always thought or think that we're going to get to a point where silver and gold are used directly, literally directly as the money. Like, oh, it's going to get to a system we're all changing to silver dimes. And I walk to the corner store with a bar of silver and buy something. Like, I never thought that was going to be the way that it worked because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously, compared to all other physical things, silver and gold function better as currency than almost anything else. And they are, money in that sense. But if you have any semblance of civilization, it's still super inefficient to deal with physical exchange that is really not commonplace enough. Like even if people wanted to, there just isn't enough silver or gold. It'd take too long to spread around to be able to function as. So we're always going to end up with something that's just like backed by commodities and is still represented in some sort of currency or some sort of at least digital representation. If we have a complete collapse of some kind of the financial system, then you're just storing it for the other side, or if some sort of barter town arises, then maybe in that true collapse scenario, you would end up using gold and silver directly as currency, just like literally handing over the gold and silver itself. But in a normal system, you're still going to be using some kind of banking system, and a lot of people aren't going to be comfortable deciding like if you hand them this and they're like, but is this real silver? Is it fake? Would I know? How much does it actually weigh? Am I just going to go by what it's marked? And then what do I do with it? So my plan was always just, like I said, I'm not planning for the end of the world. All my preparations will help me if there's a huge major shit fan scenario, but that's not the plan, and in general, preparedness is not a plan. It's just a strategy. It's not a plan for a specific thing, because if you plan for a specific thing, only something very small has to deviate for your plans to be worthless. Whereas if you just have a strategy of general preparedness and resilience, it works throughout a bunch of different scenarios. So my thoughts are always that there would still be some sort of medium of exchange set up, existing in most scenarios, and that you would then just sell it for that, then use that money, which is what George Gammon went through Argentina, which is the long way around to the conversation. And that's what he's talking about in that interview with Canadian Prepper, is that his plan was to use only Bitcoin and only gold and silver to travel through for like 2 months or whatever. And he said he was having a lot of trouble buying things or paying with gold and silver. And then that was like a big shock. And everyone's like, oh no, that means that everyone's wrong about gold and silver. And I was like, what? That was never really my plan. Like very, very specific things would have to happen for us to have an existing kind of modern economy still, post some kind of disaster scenario that uses physical gold and silver as the actual exchange. It's always going to be still some kind of banking system, still some kind of money or currency that's being used, and then you would sell your assets for that and then use that when you need it. And that never seemed weird to me. And I don't know why some people are thinking that that's like a big revelation that, oh, he couldn't just walk into a coffee shop in Argentina and give them silver coins. And they're like, what the hell is this? Even though their currency is like trash, that they all wanted US dollars. Like, that's not surprising to me. There's a normal system still up there that no one's set up to be able to use gold and silver, Bitcoin, and things like that. That doesn't mean that they're not better to have than Argentinian pesos in general. The one thing that I would like to get more information out was he said that it was like very hard to sell the gold and that they would have only been able to get like $1,000 an ounce, which I don't know. He was the one who was there, but like that seems like it doesn't make any sense to me. I went on Google and you could find coin dealers, gold and silver shops and everything in Argentina. Are you telling me that I can go to Argentina? He said everyone wanted US $100 bills and buy gold coins for $1,000 an ounce. If that's really the case, I will make a trip down there because there is a massive arbitrage opportunity where you can literally double your money just by buying physical gold in Argentina with US dollars, which doesn't make any sense. So I think he was probably going to like the currency people and the coin or the currency brokers and pawn shop type people who aren't actual just refiners or gold and silver people and being like, hey, I have this gold coin. And like, we don't normally deal with this, but I'll give you this much because I know I can double my money. The point is, where would they have, if you sold it to that person for 1,000 US dollars or equivalent in Argentine pesos, where would they have got it to get that extra? That's where you need to go. So, of course, there's not a system set up that where you can just buy and sell in small businesses with gold and silver. Just the same way you couldn't buy and sell with a Mickey Mantle rookie card or something. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that those things aren't valuable, and it doesn't mean that gold and silver aren't like money in the truest sense, but it does mean that there are, vagaries and idiosyncrasies and just logistical considerations about transacting with something that is not set up that way. So to me, it wasn't some big revelation. My kind of vision and plan was always to just realize the value by selling it in whatever is functioning as the current money or currency more like it. And if it's a serious enough disaster that there is no current banking system or financial system or anything, then there's probably not going to be a whole lot of commerce to begin with, and you're just going to be more in survival mode at that time. And the gold and silver will still function as a long-term store of value for when that recovers, if ever. Let's go back and see some comments here. Let me know what you guys think. Shiny long bar is definitely smuggling friendly. Didn't think about that, but yeah, I might want to go with gold because this is only a few $100s worth. And if you get the implication, I think he's referring to buggery, implying buggery, or keystring at the very least. uh, all of the crypto, yeah, one might be able to get this into a prison cell. Let's put it that way. Paint them brown or black and mix them with your garden shed. Hidden in plain sight. My grandfather did that for years. Yeah, I did it. I have an old video about hiding things, and it's very easy to hide things if you follow a few simple principles. And I mean, I honestly think with most people, you could like if you watch the Mark Dice videos and stuff of him trying to give people gold and silver, if you just have a lot of this stuff sitting there, or like this little thing, most people aren't. If it just looks like some weird statue, people you set it next to some nerd shit or something like, most people wouldn't know that this is worth hundreds of dollars. Now it won't stand up on its stand. They might grab the camera or some other stuff that's more known as a. But yeah, so that video with George Game didn't change my opinion about the stuff at all. It's exactly what I would expect it to be like. Just like what Bitcoin is now. Bitcoin's a good example in the US. Like, yeah, you can buy and sell stuff with Bitcoin. That doesn't mean you just go into McDonald's and be like, hey, I have Bitcoin. You have to find someone who wants to give you money for the Bitcoin and then use the money because that's just what they're set up for. And you would have to have a drastic system change for you to just do your every daily transactions with a physical thing like that, it's just not going to happen unless something seriously. Because even if it does become the money, it's still going to be you're still not going to walk into McDonald's with the gold and silver. They'll have that currency backed by it that it's been created. All the cryptozoites, Willian says, all the cryptozoites are going to be up the creek without a paddle if and when there is mass electric grid failure knocking out the internet. That is true. But I don't like these kind of arguments because it's not just the crypto boys that are going to be up. Anyone who has literally everyone is going to be completely fucked if there's a mass electrical grid knocking out the entire internet. No one is going to be good except the people who have the actual physical assets that they need in day-to-day life, the electricity, the food, the ammo. It doesn't matter what your money's in, none of it will be useful in a immediately in the aftermath of a massive electrical grid failure. But if you have cold storage crypto, that's better than having it just in a bank account or something, probably. You could at least physically take it with you to another country or something like that. But yeah, these crazy scenarios, like it's like those memes that pass around, like, what are you doing in this situation? And it's like a meteorite splitting the earth in two, and you're just like, what do you mean, what am I doing? Dying. Carpenter Key says Canadian preppers are fearmonger visitors or clickbait to sell his stuff. Gross. I don't agree with that, but everyone is entitled to their opinion. I don't think that clickbaity titles are a gross sin. I do the same occasionally too, because it does seem to be the way to get money out. And for better or worse, I do think he believes in the stuff that he's talking about. But like I said, if you don't have to like Canadian Prepper, I really don't care. That's on you. Does Canadian Prepper say the world's ending tomorrow though? I don't think he has, but maybe I missed his latest video. Good evening, South Florida DCL. Sonny says things may not completely collapse, or in 20 years, your kids might be able to use the gold. It's easily cashed. Yeah. And it's one of those things that, as Jack Spirko of the Survival Podcast always said, it's for if times get tough or even if they don't. Like, even if all we have is a continued slow descent of this shitty stagflation and turning into a second world country, it's super good for that scenario too. Like Venezuela, like it's still, anyone who has had gold and silver has still done a lot better than if they'd had Argentinian pesos. It might not be as good as in the current situation. They might have been better off with U.S. dollars specifically. But even then, he said it's only physical U.S. $100 bills that they want. Even that, you might even have to take a haircut for the $20 bills or something. So it's just weird situations, microcosms, stuff like that. But physical assets are always going to be better. And keep in mind, this is just for storing. This is your money. This isn't some thing that you have a specific job for. It's when you have extra money and you're deciding what you want to, you haven't decided what you want to spend it on yet. You can store it in physical gold and silver. I collect bottle caps, hedging my bet that will be currency. Yeah, is that from that Fallout game? I don't know why bottle caps specifically were supposed to be worth anything. But normally in a real situation, bottle caps don't have the features or properties that would make it very useful for a currency, which it has to be easily identifiable, has to be easily transportable, it has to be divisible, it has to be, you can't fake it or easily make more of it. And they only have not many of those. Scottsdale 200-ounce bars. Yeah, I love the big honking bars. Eventually, I'm going to get one of the 1,000-ounce Comex bars to sit on my lap. I've held with one of those before. It was nice, meaty. But as of right now, the 100 is the biggest I have. They're still pretty hefty. You guys haven't held a 100-ounce bar. Because 100 ounces is 100 troy ounces. Let's see how many pounds that is. That's about 7 pounds, 6.9 pounds. Pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's from Fallout, but I don't understand why bottle caps were the currency specifically in the game, if that's just something they decided. Probably won't go too long tonight, guys. So if you have any topics, let me know what you guys think about the Iranian thing. If we're going to see any backlash from this, or if it's just going to kind of fizzle out, or if it's going to be something like the Nord Stream pipeline where it comes out that it was pretty understood who did it, or if you think it was actually an accident. I will be making a video soon too. I got some of these awesome out the front automatic knives to do some comparisons on. And if you guys haven't tried these, oh my God, these awaken vintage blood memories being in the Warriors or in Terminator. It's like, I get it. Wash day. Fuck you, asshole. That guy did die after saying that. But it doesn't mean it's not cool. So I'll be making some videos on those. I got the SHF footwear video coming up. Try to do some more shooting videos in the desert. All sorts of fun stuff now that it's blazing hot and uncomfortable to do them outside, that's when I plan on doing the most. Faceless says caps were used for those reasons as a manufacturing and being easy to transfer. Yeah, and I guess there was for some reason they couldn't make them anymore in the future, so you couldn't just easily make counterfeits, I guess. But I understand it's a video game. But yeah, weird stuff going on in the world. I'll if you guys have some topics or questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll probably wrap this up in 5 minutes or so. Because I have some things to try. Yeah, these are shockingly expensive. I only have these because of some excessive generosity. But if you do have the money to spend on these things, they're really, really cool. I don't know if I'm sold on their efficacy as just as the function of various knives that you would carry for EDC and stuff, in terms of, how durable, how effective they are for either self-defense or various EDC purposes. But I'll be damned if they're not fucking cool. It's hard to not just do that over and over and over again, though. It's just too cool. And I definitely think it would have an effect similar to like the racking of a shotgun, to where if someone's just getting frisky and you're like, gotta solve the riddle of steel. Whoa. It's funny that these have always been like a boogeyman for knife laws, that like it's really, if you look at this, like these are relatively small blades. And the deployment is very quick, obviously, but it's not like orders of magnitude quicker than just opening a knife like this. And like, look at the difference in the size of those blades. But this is one that's going to be legal to carry in a lot more places than this one. But really, really cool. I can't tell you how much I love them. But yeah, check out if you guys haven't seen what's up, Desolator. If you guys haven't seen the footage, like I said, I'm probably going to be a short night tonight, but check out the footage of that meteorite in Romania. And let me know if you would think anything other than you're about to get nuked by an ICM. I think I'll post it again in the chat. Butterfly automatic has been proven 100% more deadly than normal knives. Fact. Yeah, science. 100%, just like the vaccines were 100% safe and effective, these are 100% deadly and dangerous, even compared to a knife with a blade twice as big. Especially if you can open it in a cool way, like with a butterfly knife, then everyone just like literally splits open right next to you and dies. The meteorite fell in Portugal. Is that where it was? Why am I thinking Romania? How well does it work when pressed against someone that it does not? They're not this. You can't do that. They won't open. I tried it against a cardboard box, and it'll actually like stop it from opening, and then you have to kind of like reset the spring. So they're not even dangerous in that sense, like a ballistic knife, to where you could go. Like, I mean, it's sharp enough that it would probably stab into like someone's neck, but it didn't even do it into a cardboard box, which that's not what they're designed for. Because it's pretty ingenious actually, to where it can. All you have to do is push the button, and it's not electronic or anything. So the springs have to be, in my estimation, would have to be really finely calibrated to have just enough for the closing spring to reset the opening spring, and then be able to work both ways just with that little bit of movement is all it takes. So you don't have to like crank the spring up or to reset it every time. So pretty cool technology. Yeah, he says you get at least 3 wishes from that one that bright. Yeah, I would be like, oh, thinking that was an ICBM streaking in. Yeah, I talked about Heidi Homestead. I talked about the Iranian things, the crash early, a little earlier, and a lot of weirdness with that, but still missing as far as I know. So ballistic knives are the ones where the blade actually is like launched out through some kind of spring or elastic or whatever. Like you hit the button and it shoots the blade. Those are very strictly controlled for whatever stupid reason. They're illegal in most places. Um, so I don't think you can really buy a lot of commercial or any commercial ballistic knives for whatever reason. Those are, I think it's big. Anything that like scares cops is illegal. And the idea that like someone could have a knife and then the blade could just like shoot out at you, that scares them too much. And like, it has to be illegal. So those are basically illegal to even make and stuff in most cases. With, there are some restrictions or some loopholes, I guess, for some people, because I have seen some videos where people made them. But as far as I know, there is no commercially available version of it, like a true ballistic knife. It's an AOW. I don't know what AOW is. Are you talking about the missile or the ICBM looking thing? It's pretty wild. It was lit up the sky like blue, like look at a blue laser beam. Pretty cool stuff. But like I said, I would probably be crapping my pants if I saw that thing streaking in. I guess I need to try to find some footage of what an ICBM, incoming ICBM even looks like, if it's even out there, so I can calibrate my mind. But who knows with all the, that it wasn't some, yeah, some other kind of weapon or, oh, any other weapon. Oh, for the Firearms Act or the weapons restriction laws. Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool because I've always thought about how useful this would be, like a useful knife if you had something that's had a long, thin kind of blade and then launch it out. Although they're not super effective though, you have to be relatively close because it basically is just shooting out a bolt or a dart, and it wouldn't have as you would have to have some kind of stabilizing fin or something like an arrow if you wanted it to go any farther than a few feet. But the idea is still pretty cool, being able to like launch your knife blade. So yeah, so I know you can legally own them, but there's none commercially available if I am not mistaken, but they're pretty cool. On the other hand, the out the front or the even just the regular automatics that are not out the front, those you can have in a lot of different places, but not ubiquitous. You can't have them everywhere because they still freak people out, but it's way too fun. Definitely worth it. So I'm gonna make a video comparing a couple of these because they're just too cool. This one is the Benchmade. I think it's called the Infidel, which I really like the shape of this one too, and it's like heavy. So like I said, I'm not a knife guy in a sense of like I can't tell you all the different steels and all the different features of everything, but I do like knives. And I like I said, I'm not convinced that this would actually be better from a use perspective in terms of like tougher, you know, better suited for various tasks or whatever. I'm not sure, but it sure is cool. And I still think it would be very effective for a lot of those different things. But I also want a flamethrower. That's probably one of the biggest like force multiplier type weapons that that civilians can legally buy. Because if you think about like if you really had to go up against kind of superior force, what type of weapons you would get, it would be stuff like claymores and frag grenades, belt-fed machine guns, stuff like that, rocket launchers, RPGs, anything like that, that we can't actually get any of that stuff. But the flamethrowers, like the real ones, they were so effective in like World War II before they basically thought that they were too mean, that they were almost like a strategic level advantage, not just tactical. They were like super, super powerful and effective at like entrenched enemies and bunkers and stuff like that. So if I knew I was going to have to go up against the cartels or something, I would definitely get one of those like real flame and not the little electric ones. Those are cool, but one of the ones that are actually powered by a pressurized tank. I think it's not throw is throw flame the one. So there's one that does the little electric. Okay, so there's a little. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So throw flame. Go to throwflame.com. Those are the real ones, and they're not even that expensive. And they sell the fluid. So they have the little electric ones too, I guess. But the XL18 one, 110 feet effective range, 3-gallon fuel capacity, 33 gallons per minute, maximum firepower. And if you see the videos of that thing, it's like a legit like World War II flamethrower. Badass. Definitely will be getting one of those one day. But it's like 3,500 bucks. But like I said, comparatively speaking, the advantage that would give you over like against a superior force or something or vehicles or whatever, compared to anything else that you can legally get, it's not even close. Not even close. Because you can't buy claymores or frags or, all sorts of other stuff. Obviously, there are ways you can get legit developed machine guns, but that's very, very, very expensive to do it legally. So legally speaking, force multiplier, these flamethrowers are the best and most cost effective for sure. And they're just fucking cool if you ask me. So, did you check out the new version of what, ChatGPT? Yeah, that stuff's incredible and it creeps me out. Not because I'm not worried about so much about the AI itself in like a Skynet sense, even though that's obviously possible. I've always been more worried because I can see the way that every other technological tool has been used by and controlled and kind of like weirdly neutered and everything by humans. Just look at the way search engines work and how they're completely converged politically and just how people are being deplatformed and controlled. And like that's all the stuff that I fear that is gonna the way that these tools are gonna be utilized. I can see all the good and effective stuff that they can do too, but I just know human nature. I know the way this stuff has always gone before. And I'm just like, oh, I see what's going to happen already. We're seeing it in other countries, and I'm just like so avoidable, but not at the same time. It's inevitable, but it should be so avoidable. It's so unnecessary. South Park says, Eric, is it a strong blade? It certainly seems like it, but like I said, I'm not a one of the knife guys who can tell you all the different types of steel and everything. But they both seem to have really strong blades. I want a M249 saw. Yeah, I'd rather have a 240 Bravo probably. If you're going to go belt fed, you might as well go up to the depends on how much money you have to spend for ammo, I guess. I guess as they took the label maker away from me at work because they said I was playing with it. I labeled the label maker, so I'll probably never get my flamethrower. You have to buy your own. Saw is a fantastic weapon. It is because it's light and the ammo is cheaper and everything, but like I said, I would want the 240 Bravo. Just get a better sound to it. But you can't almost like write with the saw. I've shot both before. Fun stuff. Although the really one I really liked was the Mark 19 grenade launcher. That was fun. I wonder how flamethrowers would work against disabled armored vehicles. Depending on what type, I mean, obviously, I'm imagining that all the APCs and tanks have some level of thought put into that, but like a normal, let's say, cartel type vehicle, the local gangs, probably not too prepared to be completely engulfed in flames, especially if they're cars that have normal tires and normal air intakes and stuff like that. I've broken every OTF blade I've ever bought. Wow, what are you doing with these things? I wouldn't ever grab these are too, cool and ultimately too expensive for me to grab if I was going to do heavy EDC work. I would go to a normal pocket knife. I'm not going to be like batoning my campfire wood with my OTF automatic. I'm just going to be doing this all day. It's so fun. So amazing. You said you have to experience it. It's kind of like holding the gold and silver in your hand. Everyone sees it and is like, yeah, that's cool. See this like, yeah, that's cool. But once you've touched it, it's too good. I do not play games, really. Like, honestly, I'm not a video game guy. I've had friends that would, because Carpenter Key said, what games do you play console PC? The last legitimate video, because my brothers always had the consoles growing up. So I played that, but that only went until we went up to college, and everything. That was like GameCube time. So anything after GameCube, I haven't really played much on the consoles at all. So like most of it was like 64, up through like Super Nintendo 64. I played a couple computer games that some friends were like basically forced me to play, but that was back then, like maybe a little bit of like Unreal Tournament, and like that's it. I don't play video games. They're not good for bone. Yeah, I would assume probably not. Why are you using these for like processing a cow or something? Like I think you would probably want to go with something a little just fixed blade. Or are you just stabbing people up, prison style? Maybe Lord Among Us can do some research on the flamethrowers for you. Definitely video it. Yeah, like I said, if I get a few bucks, I will definitely get one of those. I want to know how long their thickened fuel stores. You could have that thing sitting in your closet for a while and still use it. That would be an interesting. But yeah, that thing is cool. The XL18 flamethrower. One day I will get one of those for sure. For sure. Pretty wild. Since I can't get claymores and grenades. Every time I see an article and they're like, "Oh, this guy was arrested," and they always have like grenades. I'm like, where the fuck are these people getting grenades? I want a grenade. End with the Gerber Mark One. Interesting. Yeah, get like a big fixed blade if you're going to be doing serious bone hacking. Speaking of munching on some bones, I'm about to go eat some steak. but I definitely appreciate you guys watching and being patient with me on my channel. Like I said, last month I was playing a degenerate amount of poker, so I didn't have a whole lot of time, but that was luckily lucrative, and I hopefully plan on making a lot more videos soon. Basically, getting a PhD in casino advantage play, killing it. So if I ever get into that, no, yeah, I know you sent me the email, and I'm definitely interested in it. I need to look into it more. I know there, if you haven't, there was the guy from Bart Hanson from Crush Live Poker has a theory slash system about the if you have multiple players for the Texas Hold'em, where the like at least as of right now, the ultimate Texas Hold'em like table game, not the actual Texas Hold'em, which is what I play, but the casino table game, which is just based on Texas Hold'em. That there's like some ways you can play the game if you have multiple people in on it because the casinos haven't really figured out and the dealers make a lot of mistakes. So I got to look into that. I made $7,100 Vegas last trip month ago. Hell yeah, brother. Nice work. Keep it up. And I know yeah, you getting the bonuses that are left behind and everything on the ultimate or whatever that slot's called. Nice work. But I'm going to go eat some dinner. Thank you guys for watching as usual and stay tuned because I will be